How's everybody doing? So, I guess it's story time. Well, um, I've been sitting here, thinking about some stuff, and then the question came up: how do you know God is real? And what has He done for you? And all I could think of was the many times that the powers that be would have, somebody come and try to, end this life, and and they would pay people to come in, and they would have people watching so they could, broadcast it over the dark web. And there's been quite a few times. I told you guys about the time in Phoenix. Well, the few times in Phoenix. But there was more. There's I got like a couple of baskets full of stories, but I wish they were stories and made up and fake, but they're not. Anyways, so there was this girl. They called her Mama D, and I'm honest about everything that I do. Drugs, if I'm hungry, I will go and just take what I need for that to eat that meal, and which is not often I do that, not at all. But anyways, well, one day this girl, she was supposed to be a really good friend, and I had another friend named Chris and this other friend named Liz, and we were all sitting around, talking, joking around at St. Vincent de Paul's, and that was off of Watkins and 4th Avenue, and all of a sudden I see this black guy go over and go into the back of this bush and then start talking to her, and she smiles, and I'm looking at her, and I'm watching, and I'm like, all right, what's going on? And then he leaves, and she calls us over real quick, and she's like, here, hit this. And so Liz took a hit first, and then she calls me over, and she's like, here, hurry up before the security comes. I just took like a little tiny, it wasn't even a hit, and I heard Liz say, what the fuck? What's going on? What's in this? And I blacked out. Well, Teresa, this angel, she, I guess she like freaked out and went and grabbed ice and threw it down my pants, and and was saying that I couldn't leave her now, that she's don't know what she'd do. And that right there, she was the only one who like legitly cared. Man, come to find out that Jesus, the security guard for St. Vincent, he had Norcan in his car, and he went to his car real quick and he grabbed the Norcan, I guess, and the police told him, no, let him die, they deserve it. He's like, let him die. And Jesus was like, no, that these are my people, I want to save them. And he gave me 4 shots of Narcan, and Chris got 4, and Liz got 2 or 3. And he got fired for that. Can you believe that? He got fired for administering Narcan to us, and we was dying. But so when I woke up, my pants were all wet and I was freezing, and Teresa was like, what are you doing? And Mama D comes up to us and tells me, I'm sorry, I didn't want to do it, but they made me. The fuck? And I was out of it. I couldn't understand really, but I remember her saying that. So Teresa was like, just leave, and so she just left, and it took about a couple of hours for me to get out of it. But Teresa, she had, you know, a mat laid down for me on the grass, and I just laid there, or on the rocks, and I just laid there and tried to recover. And then I was pissed because I found out that, Chris and Liz also went out, and that St. Vincent de Paul, called in Jesus or Moses. Sorry, his name is Moses. Let me rephrase that. Moses. God says his name ain't Jesus, his name is Moses. Okay, Moses. Sorry. So Moses is the one that saved us. And, it was a shock because, the police, they're supposed to be there to protect and serve. And they were like, no, let him die. So can you imagine how many other Phoenix police officers do that to the people that, OD and they're just right there? I mean, is it customary for them to, pass judgment on who lives or dies and, if they're going to be saved or not? Or if it's even worth their time to save somebody? You see, the officer that said that was actually having an affair on his wife with Jessica, the receptionist at St. Vincent de Paul. And Jessica was having an affair on her man with the officer. So, it was like, what the fuck? But that was one time. And I know that God did it because God allowed Moses to save us. It's just strange. It's strange that people have the idea of God as, oh, God comes down and he saves you. No, he doesn't. God puts it in somebody else's heart that's nearby that can save you. God has something to do with it. And he works, and he does his thing, and he puts it in people's hearts to do the right thing. But sometimes people just, ignore it and do their own thing. Or do what the devil tells them to do. Because they think they're going to have gold and money and, be wealthy, and, well, they're really not. But that was